Dumb and Dumber, 1994. 15. Weird facts you didn't know. I'll be honest, I thought I knew everything about Dumb and Dumber. I mean, it's one of those movies you've probably seen more than once. But the deeper I looked, the more I realized there's a lot going on behind it that most people never notice. And some of it is just weird in the best way. Let's start with something that caught me off guard. Jim Carrey wasn't the obvious choice at first. Yeah, I didn't expect that either. Before Jim Carrey signed on, the role of Lloyd wasn't guaranteed to be his. And now it's impossible to imagine anyone else doing that character. That haircut alone, it's unforgettable. And speaking of that look, not some high-end design. They literally went with something intentionally awkward, like they wanted it to feel off. And it worked. And then there's Jeff Daniels. This part surprised me the most because at the time he wasn't really known for comedy like this. He was more serious, more dramatic. And yet, he ends up being just as ridiculous as Carrie. Actually, in some scenes, even more. And I didn't expect that balance to be so important. Because if both actors played it the same way, it probably wouldn't work. But they didn't. They leaned into different kinds of dumb. Now here's something small, but kind of fascinating. A lot of the funniest moments, they weren't fully scripted, they just happened. Little reactions, random lines, stuff that feels messy in a good way, and I think that's why it still feels fresh. It's not too clean. Another thing I didn't expect, the movie wasn't guaranteed to be a hit. In fact, it was kind of a risk. Because the humor is so specific, so absurd. Not everyone thought it would land, but it did. Big time. And I keep thinking about how that happens, how something that feels so random ends up becoming iconic. There's also the physical comedy, and yeah, it looks simple when you watch it, but it's not. Timing like that, that's hard. Every pause, every reaction. It has to hit just right, and they nailed it. Then you've got the road trip element, which seems basic, but it gives the whole movie space to breathe. Different settings, different situations, and it never feels stuck. It just keeps moving. What really stood out to me, though, is how committed everyone was. No one's holding back, no one's trying to tone it down. They go all in. And that's risky, because if it doesn't work, it really doesn't work. But here, it works. There's also this weird thing where the characters are completely ridiculous, but somehow still likable. And I didn't expect that to be as important as it is, because if you didn't like them at all, you probably wouldn't care, but you do. Even when they're being completely clueless. And I think that's what makes the movie stick. Not just the jokes, but the feeling behind them. It's chaotic, but not empty. And honestly, after looking into all this, I don't see the movie the same way anymore. Not just as a comedy, but as something that shouldn't have worked this well. And somehow did.